forth your question, commentary, etc. Now, we left off with Goranira. Had a question, or is
It's over
disappeared?
with. Yeah, it's over with.
That's good. Right? You see, sometimes these questions simply disappear and of their own volition. Much like waves disappear into the oceans, they rise and then they fall. And one of the benefits of Guru Bhakti Yoga as it relates to resting in the Ripa is that you come to understand this dynamic. So even when problems rise up, rather than you reacting to it, you will know that they will simply subside like a wave in the ocean, and you will remain calm. And that is called having the right view. And when you lose this view, then we experience all of the ups and downs because we lose the view.
Some I don't have a good view on, and that you and I have talked about a lot of times, is when the master is gone and you do your meditation, and you never got a chance to see him.
Yes, yes, yes.
So when you do your meditation, you can't focus on him because your only picture of him is through a photo.
Yes, yes, yes. In that instance, you see, you invoke into the presence. You feel the presence.
You feel presence. Okay.
In fact, many of the masters say that it is the feeling of this presence that is most important. Because you have to feel the presence of the Guru in the room when you meditate. It should not just be sterile. You should actually feel yourself in the actual presence of the master. This lends another level of clarity to the practice, right? And so practicing in the presence of the master is the key. Not only during the formal sittings, but even as we move throughout the day. And that's one of the benefits you see when one's devotion is matured, when the practice of Guru Bhakti Yoga has become more rooted, then you are continuously experiencing and feeling the presence of the master. Not only the master, you are feeling the presence of all of the gurus. You're not visualizing. You're actually feeling the presence. It's like we feel the presence of each other in this way. You feel yourself always in the presence of the Buddhas. Always in the presence of the enlightened ones. And this feeling now gives you so much solace, so much balance. You see, it protects you from so many otherwise fearful experiences. And one of the tasks in life is to be able to develop this level of awareness. Because at the time of death, you see, this is precisely what you should be able to do. If you cannot move your mind out of samsara at the time of death, then your death will be a great sin. This is called Bhakti. I've talked just a little smidgen about the Bhagwan. The Bhagwan is the name that we give to the states of transition that we move through in this wheel of Owago, as they call it, as we travel from this life into the dying Bhagwan, out of the dying Bhagwan into the afterlife Bhagwan, and out of the afterlife Bhagwan into the rebirth Bhagwan, right? So this is the cycle, right? Birth, the time between birth and your dying, the dying itself, the afterlife that result, and then the reincarnation, right? And through all of these things, we have to learn how to have a certain state of awareness. It is very interesting. Sandra and I was talking last week, was it Sandra? About the fact that most of us have a very wrong understanding of what comes after death in terms of the afterlife. One thinks that one is going to experience some peace and things of that nature. But you see, the mental state that you will undergo in the dying Bhagwan will be 7 times the intensity of whatever anxiety you have been going through. If you are full of anxiety, misery, suffering now, it will be multiplied 7-fold as you go through the dying. If you cannot remain calm during this, you will not have a shot for you dying. You will be absolutely terrified because you will be losing your whole world.
Oh, everyone.
Yes, you see, if you lose your job, and then you go through so much anxiety, you lose a loved one, you go through so much anxiety, you lose a car, you go through some, just when you lose just a little piece of this world, you see the anxiety create? During the dying barcode, you're going to lose the whole world, and that is much more traumatic.
I thought when the silver cord is broke, that's
The silver cord is simply representative, disconnected with the higher self. And so when that is broken, right? So death is something that we're going through continuously. We're always not. Everything is going through. Relationships die, jobs die, children die, we die, everything dies. And we don't know how to handle death and die at all. And that is another beautiful, one of the blessings that comes out of Guru Bhakti. You learn how to die.
you mean how to get out of the body or the state of how to
You
die?
learn how to die, and no matter what form dying takes place. As I just said, everything, including you, are in a constant state of dying. Now, you have some job. Now, one day that job has to die. It has to end. And you have to be able to go through that. What are the normal reactions we have when anything dies or ends? That simply means an end in time and space for a particular event. Right? Our reactions are normally denial, anger, right? Confusion, blaming, revenge, negotiation, depression. If we're lucky, we make it to acceptance, surrender. But almost none of us can accept the ending of anything, particularly those things that we become addicted to. So we remain in denial for a long time. Now the thing is dying. What can we do? See, relationships die, things die, and we go into denial. If we can come out of denial, then we get angry. You see, so this whole benefit of the practice of Guru Bhakti, right, and this presence, right, comforts us as we go through all of these bodies. To be able to die in the presence of a Buddha, of a Mahavira, of a Muhammad, of a Jesus, right, it's not dead at all. Right? Maharaji calls it dying while living. Right? And you have to learn how to die while living. And this you can only achieve through Guru Bhakti. No reading, no studying, no talking, no none of this stuff that we will do. Only your inner true teacher, your own Sak Guru, manifest and embodied and functioning through another human being is capable of guiding you throughout those. But did your Saguru answer? Saguru is alive and well in here, huh? Answering everybody's questions. Huh? I can be quiet. There's no need for me to go on speaking here. I'm thinking of a story that comes to mind about devotion and this, the kind of thing devotion produces, this power. And I'm reminded of a story of one disciple who himself, of course, later became a great master in his own right. Had went on a retreat, a practice retreat, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. most of the students are trained in the form of attending these retreats, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years, etc. The ideal being that you need a stretch of time to really focus. It's very hard to do that, running back and forth to work, etc. Well, in any case, he was in this tradition, and he had went away on a 3-month retreat, and he was, practicing in a gupa, in a cave. In fact, when we went to India, right, I can tell you, we saw some old gufas at the Dera, right along the Bias River at that time. You could still see the caves in the side of the walls where the old Sahus used to go in there and practice their sadhana. Maharaji built a modern guest house for them, they brought them into the 20th century, but, for centuries, people had simply gone in these gufas. Anyway, this particular disciple practiced his abhyasa in this gufa. And after being overcome with fatigue and etc., he only could sit in there so long. He came out and stretched and refreshed, and he looked up and he saw some clouds floating in the sky, beautiful clouds, And as they floated over the village, and it reminded him that in that village was where his master used to be. And the feeling that rose up in him, he just remembered that, was so overwhelming, so shattering that he fainted. And when he woke up, he had become enlightened. This is the power of Guru Bhakti. Just the thought of the master to produce this thing. So that's how it is, you see. There's other stories how different disciples comes to this state of enlightenment, but always through the influence of the Guru, you see. There was once another disciple who had been practicing 18, 19, 20 years on the things, and had got stuck, right, at a certain level of meditation and concentration, couldn't get beyond that. And so he went to see his master, and his master saw him coming and started cussing at him as he was coming down the road, cussed him out. And as he was getting near, because he was bowing, as he was coming, and he was throwing rocks and hitting them all in the bricks and everything. And so finally, once he made it there, he just reached all out and knocked him out, just knocked, cold cocked him in. And then fell out unconscious. And when he woke up, he was enlightened. So you see, there's hope for us, right? There's hope for us. But this devotion, you see, is the key. You must recognize your Sadguru when you encounter him or her, and do devotion. This is the long and short of everything. And understand that there is no other way. And it's a difficult thing to learn. Myself, you all are probably much swifter than me, but it took me over 12 years. 12 years. And I just couldn't understand that. 12 years. I'm a slow learner. Slow learner. But now I know that's the name of the game. It has to be the way. And if you can not visualize it, then simply evoke the Guru's presence. That's because this presence is everywhere.
Well, how do you do that, Bob?
You feel it, visualize. You use all of those abilities that we have in the form of a creative imagination.
It's like when your child is in the room with you, even if she wasn't there when you first went in the room, when your child comes in. You ever experienced that?
But the child is actually there.
That's an experience feeling.
The child is actually
But it's
there.
a feeling. That's what he's saying. It's a feeling.
So you have to create it through visualization. I grant you that. It has to be cultivated. That's why in the beginning, fam, it is not natural and it is not spontaneous. It takes time. You have to learn to visualize. But we do this so much. We visualize so many bad things happening to us. Nothing bad is not happening yet. But you visualized it and you're just full of anxiety. Can't you feel the anxiety of the non-existent fear? Right? And danger? Right?
Yeah.
So the mind is capable of generating full body mind experiences without any event being there corresponding to it. We have that capacity. We simply have to train it now. You see, it'd be better to feel the presence of a Buddha, right, than of an enemy that is going to do you some harm or let us out.
Well, I feel better about it since you're telling us that we can do it. Because, I mean, it actually feels a little bit intrusive to bring in somebody's presence.
Yes.
But
Because we're not used to it. And certainly we're not used to invoking the Buddha. In fact, Jesus said that we try everything to avoid invoking the presence of these beings. Because their presence shuts down certain kinds of behavior. And as Jesus said, we love this darkness. Because in this darkness we can work all kind of evil things. We can indulge all of our dark ambitions and goals. But if Jesus, if you are actually able to invoke the presence of a Jesus or a God or the Guru, a lot of your behavior has to be altered. A lot of things you cannot do. You see, if you really are able to succeed in feeling their presence. And you have to remember, if God exists, then God is present. Now the problem is simply your absence of receptivity.
are you actually there, Bhagwan?
How do you know it's not right? It's false. I mean,
Please answer that
There
question.
has to be some love involved.
But devotion is the creation. You have to create it. But don't people have so much love for Buddha whom they never seen? So much love for Jesus that you never seen? And now you just mentioned Jesus' name. People cry, he's my Lord, he's my Savior. But they never even seen Jesus. You see? Don't we have love sometime for a parent, a father that we never seen? We have some feelings. How is this possible? It is possible because this is a capacity in all of us.
Bhagwan, you are our guru.
Hmm?
You are our guru.
I'm your guru.
You're my guru.
Okay.
You are my guru. If I invoke your presence, are you actually there?
Your side. Well, you see,
I had to ask that.
the confusion. And maybe I'll let someone else answer that
Please
question.
answer
Again,
I had to ask
the
that.
guru is your own inner teacher that is always there. There's never a time when the Sakuru is not there. That doesn't exist. There's never been a time in your life, but to speak of this life, in any life, when your Sakuru is not there. It has been there since before the first time.
That was an ignorant question.
No.
I mean,
That's
it
the
wasn't to
Sakuru.
me.
No such thing as
Well,
ignorant.
it wasn't.
I mean, the way you just explained it, it just makes
But I
sense.
understand your question. You see, I understand your question. But when you are able to develop more devotion. Remember, I defined devotion as intense, unbroken, uninterrupted receptivity. And as this devotion goes on maturing, this maturing of devotion brings into experience things that you cannot see without devotion. There's a kind of eye and ear devotion, an eye that allows you to see things that normally you cannot have seen prior to the devotion. Ears that can hear certain things that normally you could not otherwise have heard until the devotion was developed. So devotion actually brings into being a whole new array of experiences that otherwise you would have never been done. So you have to practice. Go to Bhakti yoga like most other yogas. We have to practice and cultivate and develop the skill, you know, because it does not come natural. Our natural disposition is egocentric, it's ego-based, right? It's ego-based, and so it takes a while. Yes,
But the real guru, right? Is that Shabbat and love.
the real guru is that when we say Shabbat Dinam, we have to even understand what we mean by these exotic terms, because sometimes we get lost in terminology. You see, the form, like you have a form, right? Everything has a form, right? The form that the Sadguru has is really the form of sound. You encounter the Sadguru in the form of sound, the voice. That's why we say that the outer guru is a manifestation, an embodiment, a vehicle, a channel through which this Shabbat, this sound form, this voice, you see, this word reaches us.
It's like in the Bible, and the Word was made flesh.
Right.
Because it was the Word, it was the sound. That
With
is
the
the
sound,
power.
right. And so when we talk about the Shabbat and things of that nature, we read it in that.
It's almost formless.
Yes, it is forms, but so subtle that it takes the form of sound.
Yeah.
Light is another form. Light itself is a form of energy. Light is a form that energy takes, right? But before energy takes the form of light, we say that that energy is undifferentiated, unmanifest, at rest. And when energy moves into the first form, it is always the form called form. And then from these photons, you get all the other energy forms, you know, including electromagnetic fields, gravity, strange, weak, strong, you know, all of these things in the physics. So sound and light then are the fundamental forms. But sound is even precedes light. Sound is the primordial form.
That's right.
Then comes light.
That's deep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
deep.
And you have to understand, you know, this is what our wisdom minds have been telling us and teaching us through the form of these gurus, you know, since time immemorial. You see, your wisdom mind is omniscient. It is really deep. It is really deep. Much deeper than you know. Yes.
Well, we talk about devotion, we talk about devotion, and talk about the people. And I think most of us, it's you as a group. But I know that by devotion and a lot of changes that I've made in my life are directly related to you. And it's a struggle at
What
times.
do you mean when you say you?
You,
It is-
Bhagwan.
it is me.
Well,
Yes.
that past sound thing, but I know that you're the vehicle by which the teachings are coming to me. And the devotion that you speak of, the more devoted you become, the ego diminishes. And you begin to realize that, and I think that's where the struggle comes in, because the ego is still fighting to keep
The
its
ego
position.
does not want to die.
Yeah.
You have to understand this, that the fear of death is rooted in our egos. And the tragedy, you see, Tony, is that most of us have not really confronted the full force of the reality of our mortality. You see, we have not done it. You see, and this ego does not want to die. It is not prepared to die. And we do very little to prepare the ego for its death. And in Guru Bhakti Yoga, you see, the ego gets prepared for the inevitable ending. So this ego doesn't want to die, because this ego wants to remain the Buddha. See? It is a false phenomenon. You've had millions of those.
But isn't that what the real, the struggle is
Certainly
not
that's
so
the
much the, the teachings are there, and it's easy to take the teachings, but
Yes, I
the
understand.
real struggle is the inner self, because you're ready to let it go. It's no place for it. The ego has no place.
See, but the ego, you see, itself has to be comfortable. You have to work through it. You have to go beyond it. But it's
That
involved.
attached.
That's where we're at. And that's where it starts. The path starts out of ego. Please make a note of that. You can't become egoless and then you follow the path. It doesn't work like that. We start out this path. When we talk about I want to become enlightened, what is this I that it wants to become enlightened? It is the same I that wants $1 million, that wants some ice cream, that wanted some grapes, that wants sex, that wants money. It is the same exact I. You see. It's just that in the experience of enlightenment, this I will be dissolved. You see. That's the only difference. But it is the same I. It is ego. So ego has a legitimate function. We've talked about this to some extent. So this ego, we will remain, it will remain our ego, you see, until our devotion reaches a point, right, where I trust. Right now, you see, my I just always say that in the beginning stages, it's impossible to trust the Master. Very difficult to trust the Master. Very difficult. You see. It takes time to trust the Master, that the Master is really giving you a wisdom far beyond, you know what I mean? The range of your ego. So, in fact, sometimes it's so far beyond the range of your ego, you can't believe it. And hence that becomes the problem. And so our ego just can't believe it. That this is impossible. That this is too good. That this would be the case. And so we contract, we recoil, we shrink, we shut down our receptivity to the teachings. We pull back, and that's an ego thing. And that is our struggle, like you say, is to continue to cultivate. Yes, sir.
Isn't it also the case whereas that we're looking for some type of phenomenon and that it's difficult to believe that God expresses, I don't want to say it is.
They want to keep
The
it
spirit,
genuine.
yeah, the
Say
spirit
itself.
manifests itself through another human being, and that's the only way in which that one can encounter the experience. We've been indoctrinated and fooled and believing about all kind of nonsense. And
Yes.
you know, this is funny.
That's right.
But listen here though, Sarah, listen, right? This is new consciousness, right? It's funny, Siddharji. It's funny. It's funny how that doing someone recovering, someone who was addicted, you know, one of the first things was that they tell you is to get in touch with the higher power to save your life, all right? But that wasn't even a thought. I lost that thought real quickly, but that wasn't even a thought. But it's a funny thing, whereas that we can accept any and everything but God expressing himself through another human being. You know?
That's uniquely a Western thing. So we cannot say that that is the case across cultures. In many traditions, in many cultures, Tibetan culture, Indian culture, the understanding that the divine in us reaches us through other human beings. Not only the divine, but every aspect of it comes to us through another human being. Whatever happiness is in this world is the result of trying to make others happy. Whatever suffering is in this world is the result of our trying to make only ourselves happy. So even our happiness comes, everything comes to the being. And this has been known for millennia in many other cultures. It is just that in our modern Western world, where we have a very, very, very serious problem. And that's largely due to the influence of the Judeo-Christian tradition. You see, that put God up in the sky, that took God out of the body of human beings and put it in the sky behind clouds. And so now, after so many hundreds of years, we just can't believe that God is not in the cloud, but is in here. I mean, it requires almost a revolution in thinking. The whole Ishta has to shift now. But you must realize that for a time, much longer than the little modern era that we live in, man and womankind have always worshipped God within themselves and failing to be able to contact the God in themselves. They were able to contact God and that human being who had become a channel, who had become clean and clear enough for that God to be fully reflected. You see, so it was never any problem at all.
Let me ask you about this. When you think about time and history and things like that, and you've heard about Jesus, you've heard about Buddha, you've heard about other enlightened people throughout time, what makes you think that there would not be anyone in your time? Do you think the people who walk with Jesus were more privileged than you? You know, why not? Why not? Why can't there be someone for you in your generation that you can have access to if you wanted?
Because, they condition us that way, Emma. The whole thing is, it's only that one
No, but at
Jesus.
some point in time, you start thinking about
Right.
these things,
You
and
do.
either you accept them or you reject them. I rejected that.
Mhm.
I said, those
Me
people
too.
weren't better than me. You know, why can't I have Jesus? Or Buddha
And why
or
was it just
somebody?
back then and not here?
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
don't
I
you
often
ever have
thought
the
about
feeling
that.
that you walk with some of these people, that you talk with them? Do you ever feel that?
Who, me?
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
Yeah, but the answer to your question is that for a long time, I've been making one statement: I'm not coming back here. And the truth of the matter is this: is that this was not my will, because again, I didn't know anything. I didn't know, and still don't know anything. It's through Guru Sahib that I hear and feel and touch. And the truth of the matter is this: is that I have no say-so. The Lord have blessed me to be one of those marked souls. And for some reason, I'm continue to hold on, and I wonder why in the hell I'm doing it. But I'm still struggling with this thing. But the Lord has truly blessed me to be a marked soul. And I'm thankful for that. I don't question anything else outside of that. I just know that I'm a marked soul, and I'm grateful. I have no idea how I came on this path. All right, no idea whatsoever. I don't even ask Guru Sahib. It's just strange, and I ain't heard anything about no house, a bride, and no anything, and I don't question that. I just sometimes be swollen up with this state of gratitude that I'm marked.
You see, this happens, it happens like love. It's like love. When you
But it's
fall-
almost like he wasn't seeking. He got pulled. But most people seek.
Is that what mark means?
Most people seek.
Is that what mark?
No, that is
means?
not what Mark means. He know that he was chosen, but
We
it's
all
almost
are
like he
marked
wasn't
souls.
seeking.
Exactly.
It's almost like he
You
wasn't
wouldn't be here.
seeking. You just, something picked you up.
No, I was seeking now.
You were seeking.
I didn't know what.
Well, he's
Oh, you
ready to
didn't
go.
know what. Okay, you didn't know
Right,
what.
you didn't know what.
But
The
it
teacher
sounded
I
to me
was
like
just
he wasn't
begging.
seeking.
I was just begging and asking and hoping and praying and almost on the verge of suicide, if you want to hear the truth. Now that is the truth. I think one of the sessions in which that I had the privilege of doing a little talk, I made a statement that I used to go to a cemetery on 127th and Austin. I was too afraid to kill myself. And I was just in a lot of pain, and I was just seeking. What's out here to seek? What's out
What
here
you're
to
missing, and you
what-
knew something
what's
was
out here to
missing,
seek
didn't
when
you?
the only thing in which that is publicized is churches and forms of religion. And I had got fed up to here with that.
Yeah.
So what was I seeking?
What was it?
I was seeking what I'm getting right now, I guess. But I didn't even
You
know
were
that.
seeking to fill the hole.
I didn't know that.
You were seeking to fill the hole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was seeking. I was begging. I wasn't seeking. I was begging. It was either that or death.
But it's
There
what
was no
Bhagwan
in
was
between.
saying earlier. His true self was knocking on the door trying to get in contact with you.
Who was there all the time?
All the
Right.
time. All the time. It was just your ego
Had to be receptive.
that was out diverting your attention
No.
out in the world.
Yes, it was ego
Out in the
loaded with
world.
drugs and alcohol and all
Yeah.
kind of garbage. Yes,
Yes.
it was.
Mhm.
I mean, it's still ego now that got me attached some way.
Yeah.
Which then I'm trying to figure out how the hell do I kill it. But yet it's still, but I even accept that because perhaps the time is not now. And there's, have you ever felt, fam, that at one point you think that you're ready, and then the Lord give you an experience when
Oh, yeah.
and make you show you that, God, you got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You know, it just knocked all that stuff
Just
out.
recently.
But you You don't know.
Just
it.
recently.
Yeah, so it's one of the, every day it's like that. Last week, but every day it's like that. You know, you think that
I got it.
somehow you're growing, then all of a sudden, no, not yet. You
Yes.
know, something else happened. No, not yet. So I'm waiting for the not yet. And there's nothing in which that I can do is but to as they put it in AA, keep coming back. I mean, that's all. I mean, what can
Can't quit, huh?
can't where to go?
There's nothing else.
Where can you go?
There's nothing else.
I mean, we all experience. I'm sorry. We all experience. We all experience all those places in which that we thought we wanted to go. You know, we go with different relationships. We go with different jobs. We go with different religious teachings. We go with all that stuff. So where else is it to go? I have nowhere to go. I have nowhere to go. Where can I go?
You know what's that, Rod? I think that sometimes when we get to a state of hopelessness, and at that state is a crack, the openness at it, where then God can move into that. See, you have to create some room for that. Before then, we're just filled up with all kind of things, confusions and all kind of things.
Still there.
But you make some room. You have to make some room, right? Yeah, it
Well,
probably
see,
is.
I'm not making jack shit. All right, I'm not making nothing at all because when I start making something, I'm in a heap of trouble because that's been my problem in trying to make something. And I'm in a lot of trouble when I start talking about what I'm gonna make. I can't
I'm
make
gonna
nothing.
do, huh?
And if I can convince myself to stay in that mode of mind or mode of spirit, I'm okay. But I can't, you know, it keeps coming back. You know, that somehow I'm gonna do something.
We have a short attention span.
What can I say?
It's just ego, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Any other questions?
Bhagwan, if you would just review
Emma.
please review all that stuff you were saying.
I had a question.
Yes.
Emma mentioned about if you've never seen the guru, how can you visualize him? Well, when would be the instance when when a person would be your guru when you've never seen him, or your master or whatever?
Yes.
No,
You see,
that's not true.
sometimes.
Eventually he did.
I didn't see him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking.
You
Yes,
for a long
he did.
time.
Yes, he did. He went over to India.
Yeah, but
And then
that
he
was
came
after
over
the
here.
fact though, after he wanted to be.
No, she had never seen her guru, right?
Right.
You've never seen the man.
No.
That's what I'm talking about. So
Bhagwan.
how would an instance like that come about? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yes.
How long was it before you saw your guru?
I was initiated by her.
Right, but you knew of him and the
Oh, yeah, I
teachings
knew
before.
of him.
How long was
I
that?
knew of him 2 or 3 years, but I was not initiated, so technically he was not
Exactly.
my guru.
Right.
Okay, okay.
So that's what I kind
But
of
in other
confused about
cases,
that.
it was different in the sense that, you see, sometimes the master works through representatives. And those representatives are empowered to give the initiation on his behalf.
And that wouldn't make the representative the guru?
No, because the representative is acting as an agent,
Okay.
and the master remains the principal, who is responsible for that particular soul. In fact, the representative is acting on the instructions of the group. And that is because of time and space, you see. In ancient times, it was quite common for the guru to have his or her more advanced disciples conduct all the initiations and all of that stuff.
So, but that's only true as long as the master's alive, because then after he dies, then the representative would be the guru. He would be acting
But
in
not
his own
necessarily
behalf.
the representative, you see. The representative powers is invested in the guru that has appointed them. After the guru is no longer on this level of reality, then that representative has no power to bind any disciples. The guru is no longer here.
And to me, it's like the guru did initiate me, and the representative only went through the motions, because I had the feeling
Right.
before I was even notified to come for initiation. I had already knew. I had already had
Okay,
the
but that's not
experience.
answering my question. Okay.
This your answer. The real set guru is inside you.
I know that.
You see what I'm saying? It don't matter
Okay.
who give you the instructions. You
But
see what I'm saying?
as long, okay, from what I read, and which, okay, maybe I read too much, but from what I read in the past for the masters, as long as that guru is alive, anybody he initiated is his disciple.
Absolutely.
Okay, but when that, the master, whatever,
Yes.
you wanna call him, once he's dead, and the representative, like you're his disciple, can't you initiate people on your own and you are their guru?
No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work.
Okay.
That would make it just, you see, there's a lineage involved in these things, right? Always a lineage. You have to enjoy the distinction between one who simply carries out the instructions of the master, with a master. There's a vast difference between the representative and the agent, the principle that that person is representing. It's a very different thing. So ultimately, you see, your guru is not determined so much by any kind of legalistic procedure. It's in the heart. You see, when you meet your guru, you feel it. That's why I was beginning to say that it's like love. When you meet your beloved, you feel it. And there's no way of knowing prior to the meeting. When you meet, something happens. Something takes place. There's that attraction. So it's more like that than anything, really. Because it is a meeting with your own deeper reality. There's therefore a tremendous affinity, a tremendous chemistry takes place. Most of all of the things that we have come to understand about the Buddha and the disciple relationship is just what it is based on our imaginations, something we read in a book somewhere, or it's based on emotions. All of us can, and none of us needs to. And that's not in this lifetime. You see, that in the next lifetime, or in some lifetime, eventually we will mature as disciples to the degree of devotion requisite for the spiritual transformation. But I used to always say that sometimes in the life that you first encounter yourself, still there may be so much ego, so much dross, so much impurity that you need another birth. You see, Sadhguru needs more time to go through more skillful means with you. So again, in the succeeding birth, the Sadhguru will find another human being, you see, and reflect through that human being that will initiate you again. And in that second birth initiation, you will be able to respond a little bit more respectfully and sincerely, you see, with the Sadhguru. And in our interaction, you will be able to apply yourself to the path of the teachings and thereby experience more progress. But it may not be enough progress to fully re-enter into your own Buddha nature. And then a third birth would be required, etc. But the master said that in no instance will more than 4 births be required. No more than 4 births. But even when we encounter the master and we have the intellectual response, we are intellectually receptive to what the master is teaching. That's only at one level. Our intellects are receptive, but not our hearts. You see? And then this war between your head and your heart begins to take place. Because your heart is still much in love with samsara. You see? Maharaji calls that kind of devotion lip devotion. It's only at the level of your lips. It comes in emotional waves and goes. But the kind of devotion that the Buddhas are talking about, that the Buddhas are praising, is devotion that is unbroken and uninterrupted receptivity. That devotion that is interrupted and broken is not mature devotion. It has not reached the heart. It's intellectual devotion. Nothing wrong with it. One, therefore, has to practice more Buddha Bhakti. Right? And there are some preliminary practices, even to Buddha Bhakti, in the sense that, and we talked about this before, about practicing the 4 essential contemplations. That is deep reflection on the reality of your impermanence, the impermanence of things, to make you more serious about this. Because you see, you don't know when you're going to die. And until you get serious about accepting the reality of your death, it's very hard to bring to this path the kind of sincerity and commitment and fidelity required. So you have to meditate on the facticity of your own death, the inevitability of your own death, your mortality. It is interesting. I'm reminded of a story called Father of Famous as the Moon. It's an old Tibetan story. And the story is of a very, very poor farmer who, through much hard work, was finally able to gather enough grain to go to the market and convert the grain into money. And he had been working so long and hard at this naturally. When the sack became full, he was tied at the last knot in the rope at that moment. He was just ecstatic. Now finally, he will have an opportunity to convert this sack of grain to gold and buy all the things that he has been living without and dreaming of for such a long time. And so as to take no chance that any rats may eat into the grain, over the night, he tied a rope to it and pulled the sack up into the rafters of his little hut, and then tied the rope along the wall. And to make sure that no thief would break into his house during the night and steal the sack of precious grain, he decided to sleep right underneath it so it could hear. And as he's laying there underneath his sack of grain that is going to make him some money, his mind started to visualize all of the differences that this grain and the money it will bring will make in his life. And he first had to decide how he would sell it, you know, whether he would sell it gross or would he break it down into smaller amounts. Of course, he decided he would break it down to smaller amounts because he'll be able to charge more money, you see, and therefore would have a bigger profit. So once he figured out how he would go about selling it, where he would sell it, how he would set his stall up in the mall, his mind took to thinking about now once he got this money, what he going to do next. And he saw all of the changes he was going to make around the old house, and he was going to fix this up, and he was going to fix that up. And he had saw a nice little sofa up in the marketplace that was just right there. And so after he got all his house furnished off, then his attention, like any man of wealth does, turned to women. And he starts fetching all them pretty women that he had been seeing. And he remembered this one particularly beautiful girl over in this village, and how he was going to dress up and go over there. And he had his words laid out, clothes laid out, everything in his mind laid out. And he even began to see them getting married, you know what I mean? Saw them going down the aisle and everything. And even beyond that, he saw when they had their first child, and it would be a boy child, a magnificent child. And so he's staring out of the window, and then he's trying to figure out, what would I name my son? And he so happened to catch a glimpse of the moon. He said, that'll be a good name. Because he'll be my son, and I'm rich, and he'll be as famous as the moon. And he said, that's a good name. And just as he's about to speak the name through his mouth and say it so he could hear it loud, the sack fell and killed him. This is what we do. This is what our ego does. It sits and it does all this plotting. And then the sack falls and kills you. And we have to develop 1,000, that's right, will fall and kill you. So Maharaji has said that we have to always, we have to develop a kind of awareness, a kind of peripheral awareness that is able to see death. We must constantly be watching for our own death, because you don't know when you're going to die, and you have no idea under what circumstances you're going to die. Nobody. Now, most of us are in great denial about that. We think that death is going to work itself out. I'll die in the bed at 95, or won't be a long lingering illness. I'll go peacefully, it'll be painless, blah, blah, blah. You see, we're planning a very nice, clean death. But the reality is you don't know under what circumstances you will die or. And hence you will be caught off guard. You'll be caught off guard. So by contemplating the inevitability and facticity of your mortality, you begin to reprioritize your life. And you find out that the only task that any human being can accomplish in life that is worth accomplishing is re-establishing ourselves in our own wisdom mind, our own nature. Failure to do that is to have wasted life. And so when we encounter this physical human embodiment of our own inner true teaching, the Sakura, then if we have contemplated death, then we will bring to that relationship the appropriate respect. One of the things that I was just struck with in India is to just show the difference in the cultures. In India, you see, sitting in satsang is a very different experience than we have here. You know, sitting in the presence of the master is a very different thing. You know, one is very alert. There is no distraction. We don't even, it was really strange, you know, there's no whispering, there's no gossip. People don't even talk to each other. Just be quiet. You know, it was almost blasphemous. Why are you distracting me with this nonsense? You see, I'm trying to absorb something. It was my good fortune when Maharaji came here to Chicago in 1970. And to go down, and that was the first time I encountered Maharaji. And the strange thing is that my ears stopped up for some unknown, ungodly reason. Perhaps due to the buildup of wax, I don't know. But I certainly lost hearing. And so I was forced to sit there in satsang. And there was no way to be distracted. All my attention was focused on Maharaji. You see. So I became very familiar with his nuances, everything, because I couldn't engage in any conversation. If someone said, "Oh, isn't he beautiful?" I don't hear. There was no way for me to be distracted, sidetracked. And so in India, you see, that whole tradition is like this ain't social hour. This is not happy hour. You know, this is trying to get rooted in my wisdom and mind before the inevitable event takes place. Death. I have got to become enlightened before I die. How would you be enlightened after death if you're not enlightened prior to death? The only sure way of not coming back here is to get out of here now. If you do not get out of here now, and death catch you, then you're coming back. It has nothing to do with your preferences, only with your attainments. So that's a very sobering thought. The other thing is to begin to appreciate how precious it is to have this human birth, and in this human birth, to come in contact with the teachings. And once you even come in contact with the teaching, to encounter your own Sadguru. This is a momentous event that has not occurred in millions of your lifetimes. You see? And you have to be focused on it. So that helps focus you, right? Detaches you. It brings some of that attachment down. So it's a very different thing. And even in the lifetime of because the guru is obviously that egoless, mirror-like individual that can reflect the Sadguru of many people. You see? Right? And so as a result, sometimes many disciples gather around. But even amongst the disciples, only those disciples who Guru Bhakti, for whatever reason, if either from a previous birth or from them practicing some very serious reflection, are able to move their degree of receptivity to a much higher level. Right? Where they're very, very receptive. Where there's no interruption. Where they are focused. Very much so. On re-establishing themselves in their own Buddha nature. Before they die. That becomes their priority. To become enlightened before death. If you are content with becoming enlightened after death, Swamiji Maharaji has already said this is really not the path for you. If you think you're not going to die and that you're not going to get sick. And remember, your death will always come when you desuspect. Please make a note of that. When you desuspect, it will pounce upon you like the same. And the question is, will you be ready? You're so fearful of losing just the little things. You're so afraid of losing your job, losing a spouse, losing a child. Then imagine how fearful you're going to be when you lose your whole life. Are you ready? And if you're not ready, what are you doing to get ready? You better get ready. That's the real deal. So there's some kind of preliminary reflection that tends to bring a different intensity to our religion. And that is something that we have to do on an individual basis. But tonight, and this evening, is that almost, she said cut? Is that you directed?
Probably watching television
Oh,
and
she
got
watching
tickled.
TV. Oh, I hope death don't come now. So it's going to catch some of us right in the middle of that popcorn and the commercial, right? But certainly, you know, tonight we wanted to talk about the real deal as it comes to the teaching. And I thought I owed that to everybody, but particularly to Sadaji, whom I put off for as long as I possibly could in response to his request to talk about the Guru and Guru Bhakti Yoga. I hope that we have placed any misunderstandings about our possibilities. Maharaji told me in one letter, he says that make no mistake about it, to encounter, Maharaji always never talked about himself as a sadguru. This is strange, you know. When I'm quoting him, you know, he's not talking about some other sadguru, right? But he says that to encounter the master and the sadguru, he says, and get initiation from them. He said, make no mistake about it. It is more valuable than if you had gained millions and millions of dollars. And I didn't, so as always, you know, there's so many things that you hear, just like when you grow up with your parents. You know how your parents tell you so much stuff and you just really don't realize it until you get grown? It's sort of like that on the path of discipleship. The master tells us these things, but sometimes we're so young and immature and full of the romanticism of mysticism that it don't go in until much, much later down the road, and then it sinks in and you begin to really, really understand, you know, what the master meant by that stuff. And for me, it was the role of the Guru. You see, everything else came easy, no problem. You know, karma and all of these other esoteric subjects was very easy to grasp because it just requires intellect. You know, just a little ability to think clearly. You got it. It's simple. But to understand devotion, bhakti, you have to have a high heart wisdom. You know, and this is all very rare. You know, it's the heart stuff. So, Guru Bhakti Yoga is the long and short of this path. And that is always transmitted from the master mind to the mind of the disciple, and from the master heart to the heart of the disciple. It is very interesting that when the master picks the right time to introduce you to your original face. It's interesting. After your sadguru initiates you, he has to, or she has to, take the ego through a long, sometimes long preparation, right? A long preliminary training, more skillful work to get us to a point where it can show us our own face, right? And it's a very beautiful story that one disciple who mastered, who Guru had worked on him for about 26 years. And finally the Guru was ready to be shown his own face. And sometimes in the Tibetan tradition, you know, they have a ceremony. It's a 6-month ceremony. I mean, they do it up, right? See, right? They're not like the Zen master. Zen master just being guided, but the Tibetan, you know, everything is so ceremonious. So 6 months you're going through the ceremony, right? And so when the Guru showed the disciples Buddha nature, And the disciple for the first time caught a glimpse of his own Buddha nature. And he describes that he started melting. And all he could say to the Guru, he said, Guru Sahib, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening, Guru Sahib, it's happening, Guru Sahib. And the Guru said, calm down, calm down. See, so there's a kind of meltdown that goes on. But that's the beauty, you know. And they use all kinds of skillful means to introduce us to our original Buddha nature for us to get a glimpse of it. I am reminded of a story of where one of the lamas took the disciple up into the mountains, way up into the mountains. Now the disciple had been with the Guru for 16 years, and still the Guru had not introduced him to his own Buddha nature, had not gave him the view, you know, of his own Buddha nature. And so they were walking up the hill, and very unsuspecting. And he hollered, he said, come here. You know what I mean? And he says, lay down on the ground with me. Let's rest. So they laid on the ground and they looked and he said, you see that cloud up there? He said, yeah. He said, did you hear the chirping of the birds in the tree? He said, yeah. He said, did you hear the sound of the cricket? He said, yeah. He said, that's all you need. And the man got a glimpse of his Buddha nature and became enlightened. So these masters have so many ways. The great woman mystic sage, Nyoko, was carrying water, right? And one of the pails fell. And as she reached to pick it up, she saw the reflection of the moon in the water. And through that, the trigger, and she got a glimpse of her own nature. And she became enlightened. So so many ways. So it depends on how your Sadguru works with you. You see, each of us, our Sadguru will work with us differently, because we all have a different ego configuration. And this guru has to use all kinds of skillful means to manipulate our egos. Right? But Maharaji always said that make no mistake about it. Once the seed has been planted, once the encounter has been had, you are cooked. You are out of here. So in some respects, Sathura, you're right. Maharaji said he will take us out of here, whether we go with them willingly or dragging and swinging, but out of here we go. Right? You're gonna come out of this ego. Sometimes the style has to be beautiful. So these are just some of the many things that hopefully in the future we'll get a chance to explore. And Bilal, we've taken up so much of your time here. We must all be very grateful that Bilal always.
Thanks for that.
He's one of those.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
This is Darji.
This the guy y'all should be thanking. I just walked the truth.
All right, if there's any last questions, then we're going to return him to his house so he can relax.
Hey, Bhagwan,
Yes.
you talked about the 4 steps to Bhakti, how
Guru Bhakti.
Guru Bhakti?
Yes.
Can you just repeat
Yes.
that?
Invocation is to prepare yourself during your formal meditation to bring yourself to the level where you can ask to invoke from your Sadguru his or her blessings and to ask to be helped, quite frankly, to acknowledge your own captivity to the negative influences of your mind and emotions, to acknowledge the fact of your suffering, your helplessness, to get out of this state. We're, as you said, Pam, so many things, and still we cannot control our anger, we cannot control our lust, our greed is still there, our attachment still is attached, as if before we even And so I don't know what else to do. I done read it, and I'm still trapped. Master, help me. Take care of me. You see? So we have to invoke, we have to ask. Jesus says, ask and it shall be given. Knock and the door shall be opened. See? We have to practice that. That just cannot remain at the level of poetry. And after asking, now we have to bring ourselves into a deep state of receptivity to the giving of the blessings from our master and all of the masters, all of the Buddhas, and all of the enlightened beings from time immemorial. And we try to therefore open up our mind so that our mind can become merged with the wisdom mind of the Buddhas. You see, practice good, strong concentration, right, on our samara, so that there's room in our mind. Clean out all of the thoughts of samsara, right, and make room for the wisdom of the Buddhas to flow into our mind. And this deepening of making ourselves more receptive to the blessings is the second stage. And of course, then we're now not going to jump up out of the bed, right? We're going to lay coupled a little longer, right? Interlocked in this great love affair, and let the powers and blessings just fill us up. Just fill us up. We talked about visualizing that process. Remember all of that. So this is the empowerment space, where now we're actually opening up and becoming receptive to the influx of the powers flowing through the group and through all of the groups that are flowing through that channel. Letting it come into our being, filling us up, cleansing our mind of the negative thoughts, the harmful emotions, which are generating the negative karma that is causing us all of this suffering. Cleaning up our speech, right? Cleaning up our hearts, right? Letting all this compassion, wisdom, and power filling us up. And after we are filled up, right, then we swallow the master. We dissolve the group into light and swallow it. And just abide in that state. Then we get up from our meditation, maintaining this view, keeping it stabilized with our meditation, and integrating it into our life. So that is the whole cycle. And this is Guru Bhakti Yoga. It is, all other yogas lead to this. Raja Yoga, without becoming rooted in Guru Bhakti Yoga, you'll get nothing. Jnana Yoga, half yoga. You see, none of the yogas. No reading of books, no practice of religion, no anything. There is nothing superior to Guru. And it's a hard message here in the West, but it has to be said. Even in our ancient African tradition, it was understood you must have faith in not only in yourself and the teachers, but you must have faith in the teachers. You can't go nowhere. You just can't go nowhere. There is no such thing as bringing the ego bringing itself into enlightenment. That has never happened. That's never going to happen. It's impossible. And we have to choose that. Will I remain a disciple of my ego, or will I become a disciple of my Sadguru? I'm saying that the Sadguru is an entity in you that is far wiser than your ego. Your Sadguru that is in you has far more power than your ego. You see? And you just have to make that choice. You see? And remember, it is your choice. It is your choice. But at some point, we have to enter into spiritual recovery. We have to acknowledge we've been following this ego, and this stuff ain't working. So that's Guru Bhakti in essence. And hopefully we'll have other occasions in the future. And my hope is that some of you will take this conversation serious to heart and begin to practice Guru Bhakti and then see for yourself. But I used to always say that, the only proof in this pudding is eating it. There is no other way. You know, don't take my word, don't take my master word or his master word or Buddha word or nobody. Practice it for yourself, and then you see whether there is God in you or not. Because sometimes you don't believe that in you is God. You really don't believe that. You really have been brainwashed into thinking that God is somewhere outside of yourself. Really. You need to go and discover for yourself. It's such a wonderful thing when you encounter yourself. It's the greatest relationship that you ever could have possibly had. The most important relationship that you will ever have in any lifetime. You see, out of all of the billions of relationships you've been into, none of those relationships have helped you. None of them has resulted in you enlightenment. Quite the opposite in many instances. It is only when we have the great good karma to encounter the physical embodiment and manifestation and channel through which our Sadguru flows, and we're able to get in contact with it. That is the only relationship that counts at all. The other relationships keep coming and going. They don't result in any enlightenment. And devotion is the name of the realization of that fact. So on that noble law, I think we'll end. I think we've had enough for tonight. Yes, sir.